when is a good time to get a product manager on my startup?
We would say nepovyšuj se nad nikoho a před nikým se neponižuj. Half of the product management time is about communication with others. Thinking about the complementary skills, make sure that you just don't have 11 players that can shoot goal from every position, but you also, for example, need a goalkeeper.
Welcome to the Productized podcast. We dive deep in the minds of the most innovative entrepreneurs and leaders in product management and design. For our listeners, take the chance to dive even deeper into product topics with over 25 speakers and trainers at our upcoming Productized Conference 2024. It's happening in Lisbon, October 3rd and 4th, and early birds are still available at www.productized.co. We hope to meet you there. And today, I'm thrilled to welcome Martin Felcman, the head of product at Productboard. Martin has a wealth of experience shaping product strategies and teams across global markets. Martin is also quite new addition in the sense that Productboard is this year's sponsor to the Productized conference. Martin, it's great to have you with us. And
Thank you for having me.
I know that you are in Czech Republic, right? You are in Prague.
That's correct. I'm based in Prague. Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody who is listening. Pleasure to be here and to talk about the product.
Great to have you. I'm wondering, do you have a favorite app? This is a very loaded question for someone that is managing an app of apps, right? You're managing. You have lots of visibility over lots of things, but
yeah, I
what
think
is your favorite app?
Very cheesy to answer that Productboard. I'm not sure if I can say that, but for me, it's a daily tool. But eventually, I would actually mention new apps like ChatGPT or Gemini from Google. Like that's a life changing development that we see there pretty much firsthand alive, and some of the new announcements, it's really fantastic to see. So I can see how they are embedding into my life day by day, so I can really see my usage going up with these two.
Did you follow the yesterday's WMC? I mean, Apple's announcement of how they're integrating OpenAI on the operating system.
Yes, very briefly, only headlines. I feel like that's fantastic to see, like how everything is connecting together. I'm still quite curious about how Apple will actually play this AI game, because I think like relying on OpenAI eventually brings a lot of controversy, as we saw in some of those headlines. So still very curious how that will play out.
Yeah, I think it's exciting times. So if you are old enough to remember those days, like me, back in 2008, 2007, when we saw the first iPhone, the first Androids coming up, so the sun, the birth of the mobile revolution, and everything was new, right? Everything was coming up back then. So, oh, there's this app called Twitter on your phone. Oh, there's this app called, whatever. We kind of living the same, I guess, now that most of AI tools are actually making the road towards mobile operating systems, and might be lots of opportunities unfolding. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. We have a conversation that we're going to touch on AI and a bunch of other topics. So, Productboard was born out of a Czech founder, right? And I guess is mostly based in the US nowadays. Hubert.
So we are Hubert as one of the co-founders, and our CEO. He's based in San Francisco. He lives there for I think more than 15 years now already. And so from the get-go, from the beginnings of Productboard was distributed and had an office and presence in San Francisco, which is now our headquarter, but also very strong presence actually here in Prague and Czechia in general. We also have a another office in Czech Republic. So that has always been the case, and since then we added a few other locations such as Dublin, London, and many people working remotely.
Yeah. And now we're going to play against each other, at least with Czech Republic in the Euro Cup in Germany. When I
Oh
say
yeah,
we, it's Portugal and Czech Republic. If you follow
that's true.
football,
I follow. I follow. We just wrapped up ice hockey championship. That was actually a big thing. Czech Republic was hosting it,
hmm.
and we were the lucky that we actually won this year. So
Oh, congrats!
now we go through Euro Cup and then Olympics start. So it's a packed year. It's a packed year
Yeah, it's
for any
fully
sport
backed
fans.
here. So, what's your? So you get to go to the US a lot, or you don't go there that often yourself?
I do regularly. So after COVID, obviously there was a bit of a break
Hmm.
during the COVID times, but right now, yeah, I visit regularly. I was there about a month ago
Hmm.
last time. So
Do you have
fine,
any
yeah.
favorite spot there? Maybe did you have any time to go visit Yosemite or
Yes, yes, yes,
any
yes.
favorite places?
I like the coast, so I actually travel. I like the part that is north from San Francisco and some of the beaches,
Hmm.
not that far from the city. So
So
eventually,
north of San Francisco.
yes, 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 yes. But the south from San Francisco. Like, I also spent quite some time in Los Angeles. So
Hmm,
the
okay.
whole kind of like a Pacific Highway and multiple spots there. It's fantastic to see and explore and unwind a little bit. So that's definitely the
Where
area
do
that
you
I
guys have offices in LA as well, or
no,
just
no, no, no,
just?
no. It was with the previous company. So one of the previous companies I worked for. So they had a headquarter in Los Angeles. So I actually spent quite some time there as well.
All right. So strong recommendations here from Martin. All right. So Martin, you've built a robust career in product management. So let's start from the beginning, maybe your early days in product. So what drew you into the field of product management, and how was your journey evolving over the years in those early years? I guess.
Yeah, I actually started quite early in a teenage. I started, as
Hmm.
many others actually around me, by building websites. So like this was the
Hmm.
first some sort of a business. So I actually started charging for it in early days, and then I turned it into digital agency.
But this
And
was
so
back in the late 90s, early 2000s, right?
yes, yes. So like 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And then I turned it into digital agency
When
after
when Flash was still a thing.
Flash was still a thing. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Were you
Yes.
building Flash websites
So not
like
me,
everybody? No.
not me, not me,
Okay,
not me.
okay, that's
But
good.
it was. I mean, like you saw two schools. Like some people were using Flash and
Yeah,
building like
those were the
super
days. Yes.
interactive
Hmm.
websites and web application with Flash, and then others were relying more on HTML and JavaScript and
So you were more into the HTML JavaScript school.
yes, yes, exactly, exactly. HTML, JavaScript, and PHP were the ones that I
Hmm.
used the most, and so that's how we started. And with two other partners, we actually built digital agency that still exists and supports some of the largest brands, more
Hmm.
focused on the Czech market and marketing campaigns that run here. And then actually I wanted to do something what has more of a long-term value and people don't forget about it after the campaign ends, whether it's a
Right.
Christmas campaign or Easter campaign or a campaign for a football championship and so on. And so this is how I got into product management, and I actually joined the advertising technology startup, so it wasn't that far from what we were doing. So we
Hmm.
were in the marketing technologies and working very closely with some of the largest social media platforms. And this is how I got into product management. And then a
Hmm.
couple of years after, I actually joined Productboard shortly after the company Series A, when the company had just somewhere around 25 people back then. And I can say that it has been an incredible journey since then.
All right. How many people do you have now?
I believe I would have to check, but I think it's somewhere over 300 right now. So globally.
All right. So from employee number 25 or so, you're now part of this big family. And now at Product Board, you're at the forefront of developing cutting edge product management tools. Can you share with us the core philosophy behind Product Board and what sets it apart in an ever increasing and more competitive landscape, today's market for tools like yours?
Yeah. So the way how we think about the product board is and how we talk about it is that it's a product management platform. It's pretty much a new category that you see emerging among many other tools supporting the different roles and organizations. And we serve our customers with three jobs to be done. One of them is understanding what your customers actually need. The second is about prioritizing what to build next. And the third one is actually rallying everybody around the coherent roadmap. And so what makes Productboard unique is really that element of a customer-centric approach. It's primarily that first job that I mentioned, helping you to understand what customers needs. Because we believe that we are pretty much the only product management platform that provides that single source of truth for customer data, and that helps you to uncover what individual customers or individual customer segments actually need. And now also with the great help of AI, that has become a much more efficient to actually be able to do that. And there's a one particular thing to give you maybe one example of like what it actually means that I absolutely love about Pragboard is that you go in front of the customer and you are presenting a roadmap to them, roadmap that you have created for the whole organization
Mhm.
and that you are rallying everybody internally around. But maybe the customer doesn't necessarily care about every single item that is on the roadmap. And since you can link individual insights from the customer to individual items that you're actually working on, you can create a super customized experience for the customer and really have a super powerful storytelling when it comes to how you are actually thinking about evolving the product and how it helps them to actually partner up with you on that journey and what are you going to do for them. So that's the customer centric approach that we talk about and that sets us apart.
And you often speak about product excellence in some of the blogs that you've written up about how um, the product should align, but at the same time, what product excellence means at Product Board, and how do you ensure your team strives for this internally as you build the product itself to serve your own customers?
Yeah. So we very often say, or I'm trying to use a model myself, that if we are introducing a solution, it isn't just a feature and like we are not just a tool. And product excellence for us is that methodology, that set of best practices that we believe that is a better way for doing a product management. And so, what we put the emphasis on is actually getting the right product to the market faster. And we use those three jobs that I mentioned before as some sort of a guiding principle for us. And we are helping customers to actually get better at those jobs. And so, it's actually something we learned throughout the conversations with now thousands and thousands of product managers that those things that set them apart when it comes to building excellence products are actually certain stages across those three jobs that I mentioned. And so you see that if the organizations actually mastered that everybody in the organization, the last and newest person that they join, also understands what users really need. That's one thing. Other thing is that every single person in the organization understands what are the key strategic objectives, what they're trying to achieve, and what is the rationale around it. And lastly, everybody understands what are the product advancements or enhancements that you're actually building, where are you heading, and why. In that case, you pretty much won the lottery. because we learned that these companies actually build excellent products that people love to use
Hmm.
daily, and that they talk about. And so there are stages to these three, and sometimes like you can check out our website, and like they're a little bit broken down, so like you can actually assess where you are and maybe what are the things that you can do to actually advance to the next stage. So like what are eventually the things that you will need to change in your own organization in order to advance. But for us, it's uh, it's very important that we actually empower our customers on this mission. You see that many of them, we call them a Productboard champions. They are passionate about what you can build and how you can build it the same way as we are. And internally, we very much aspire to actually live by what we preach and strive for the best. We see it firsthand actually how it shapes the products that matter to others, and what are the fantastic products that um, we put out there. If I take maybe some portion of a credit for actually contributing to those products of our customers, and that people love to use them.
Hmm.
Very often, I will actually encounter the product that I know that has been built. Through Productboard, and that those companies actually spent some time on understanding customer needs, and it wasn't just some sort of a YOLO product development saying
Hmm.
that like it would be great to have that, but there's a lot of depth and insights actually behind that. On the other side, I'll just add to it. Product management is also a very hard job, and it's never done. So like as those like three elements I mentioned are highly aspirational, you have to keep working on them. Like they are not, you don't get them for free. Like you have to react to the markets changing. You have to react to your organization's reshaping. You have new people and so on. Like that is a continuous process to actually uh, be there and stay on the top, because sometimes like it's actually much harder to stay on the top than advance from let's say lower stages of a product management, and how to actually uh, uh, work with the customer needs, how to prioritize them, and how to build the roadmaps and then the products.
Right. There's a lot of talk, or has been a lot of talk in the last few years about so-called dual track, right? Whereas you are doing product delivery and product discovery more or less in a parallel tracks, and making sure that insights from product discovery get incorporated into the product delivery cycle in a meaningful way. Uh, um, I guess that's one of those product excellence practices that you're also preaching, or how does it play into this overarching philosophy of yours?
So there is a more specific agile practice, and how do you run that particular process, which is completely compatible with what we see as a product excellence and how the organization should behave. We stay more
Hmm.
on the levels of principles, and what should be some of the things that you are trying to do, but we don't say what should be your ways of working and how do you eventually get there.
Hmm.
So it's sometimes we leave that a little bit more open and flexible for our customers. And so, if you are eventually using a dual track agile, I think you can very well use Productboard as well. We are using a dual track agile ourselves,
Hmm.
so trying to operate that way to high degree. But then if you are using a different frameworks to actually build your products, so it isn't an obstacle for you to adopt product board. Very often the different frameworks and methodologies share a same underlying principles, so we rather try to focus on some of those underlying principles. And as we are now advancing the product, we actually took a step back to evaluate some of the most common frameworks and methodologies, and what are some of the challenges that our customers face when using a product board there.
Hey, you! Yes, you! I didn't mean to scare you, but I have something special to share before we dive back in our exciting conversation. Are you ready to improve your product management skills? Then mark your calendar for Productized Conference 2024 from October 2nd to October 4th. It will be epic. Picture this: world class workshops, industry leaders sharing their secrets in an innovative atmosphere here in Lisbon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. If you follow the podcast, this is the place you want to go. So, while you're enjoying today's episode, grab a ticket and join us. Take advantage of this exclusive opportunity. Head over to www.productized.go and use promo code podcast, all caps, PODCAST, to get 20% off to secure your spot. This discount is on top of Curly Bird, so you can use it until June 28th. And let's meet in Lisbon for Productized 2024. See you there. Mm-hmm. All right. So, as you look to the future of this landscape we're in, what trends do you predict will dominate the product management roadmap in 2024 and maybe 2025 or so? I think it's really far fetched that we have more insight than the next 1 or 2 years, specifically. And we kind of touched that in the beginning, but starting with AI, right? Artificial intelligence, it's reshaping many industries, it's getting into operating systems themselves. How are you seeing AI transforming also the product management practice itself?
I think AI will absolutely dominate the space, not only in a way how it helps product managers and product teams to be more productive and innovative, but also that everybody is starting to be AI product manager. It will be AI product manager. Like, it will no longer be something what let's say a particular team that is inside of the organization that works on AI, and you will have absolutely everybody in the organization that needs to have some degree of AI chops, as they need to understand how to build products for mobile devices or for desktop devices and in a different context. So AI changes the context completely, and you can see how everybody is sprinting to actually differentiate with AI and help customers to do more. So that will be, I think, number one trend. I think it would be very hard to put it somewhere else. The second one that I'm thinking about and that we see is the rise of product operations role. So pretty much a completely new role to many organizations. We see it more present in the bigger organizations, and that role primarily focuses on enablement of product managers, making sure that they have everything what they need to make the right decisions, and nothing is blocking them to actually do excellent job. And then the other is actually driving that product excellence that we talk about. So people are actually proud about how they build the product, and more importantly, what product they actually build.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
maybe the third one, so we complement it with kind of like a top three. I would say the customer centricity that we talk about will continue dominating here. I mean, like, we see that right now the market is a little bit harder for some of the companies, and this is a super important element and ingredient for excellent products. So I think we will see more of it. And with some of the advancements, for example, in AI, it will be a little bit easier to get some sense of all that pile of feedback that product managers very often act on and dive into.
all right, so let's try to divide to conquer here. So let's start with AI. If I understand right, your thesis is everybody gets to be a product manager inside the organization, or at least everybody gets to do um, things that were reserved in a traditional organization to the role of the product manager. And now, you know, maybe the developer does a little bit of insights and research, or maybe the even the CEO will have much more acumen, product acumen, because of AI. Is not really?
Not necessarily. I would say like there's still a lot of space for product managers, even though like very often we talk about, if you look at the website, like we talk about product makers, and
Yeah.
so we recognize that there is a particular role and function called product management, but very often that the job, especially if you're a super early stage company, is done by founders who don't have a product management title, are done by designers, engineers, and so on. So it doesn't really matter who does that. What I want what I want to maybe say is that the product managers, you would see historically, or like if you look a few years ago, you would have somebody who would call themselves, I'm a AI product manager. I focus on building AI capabilities and pretty much don't do anything else. And that is somewhere on inside of the organization. Very often you would see them like sitting somewhere in the back, and they would appraise like, yeah, we are building here this type of platform. But I think what we will actually see is that every single product manager and every single product team will
Hmm.
be inevitably forced to actually use AI capabilities, and therefore they will need to understand them, and they will need to think about how they are going to embed them into their products that were eventually built in more of a standard way. And right now, a lot of those workflows that those products support will be powered to a certain extent by AI capabilities. And so every single person needs to understand at least a little bit the AI and actually build those, as I mentioned, chops, like build that craft around it, build that certain degree of understanding of how that actually work, and think about the strategy around AI. So like everybody, I think, like will be asking, so like that's great, but like have you thought about using AI for it? And like they will need to have an answer.
All right. So I think I got you there. And all right, so let's jump into the product ops part of the answer. Has product ops is gaining recognition, has a crucial function inside product teams. How do you think the role is going to get a firmer hold and more space inside organizations? Because when you go to your website and you go to the productboard.com, and when we see how different teams win with product board, which is part of your, I guess, sales or marketing pitch to different personas. We have product management, product operations, product leaders, product engineering, and sales, customer, and success. Product operations, let's focus on product operations. What's your thesis here?
So as you see the operations role being present in other functions. So like you see sales operations role pretty common in organizations, marketing operations roles, development operations roles, right? DevOps, like they are making people in those functions much more efficient in their job. And so it's more like a multiplier function, really.
Right.
And same as product managers where like they didn't really have a dedicated tool before, and then now they are getting them with products such as Productboard. You see the same thing happening when it comes to the operation side of the things, and right now like we see the product operations being also present in the product management function. And so companies do realize it. I think very often the larger companies created dedicated roles for it, and the smaller companies, typically it's the head of the product that is spending quite some time on the product operations, but also their time can be used in much better way if they rather focus more on the actual customer and on the strategy, and leave that operational side to somebody who will be equipped to actually do it and do it much more effectively. So this is what we will see more of, and we are still at the very beginnings.
And do you see the so still a person, or do you envision a future where product ops are automated to the point that this can be, you know, robotized or automatized to a certain extent?
So I think the areas that will not really be completely automated or robotized, as you mentioned, are the ones that include people and collaboration. And so product operations is highly collaborative role. Like you
Right.
are the one making sure that the people that you support have everything what they need. That the process and the collaboration in a way how you actually decide on what to build, what inputs you consider, how do you build the roadmaps, how do you communicate them internally, eventually externally. That's a highly collaborative job. So I don't think that it will be eliminated. I think we will see more of it because it's a massive efficiency boost. As I mentioned, it's a multiplier, and it's I think getting even more critical if you think about how fast the market is, the shifts that are happening there. So being able to flexibly react to those changes, adjust the ways of working to the new context, that is super important. Like you will very often see that, and that's why many startups actually exist, right? Like they are
Mhm.
able to react quickly to the market shifts, trends, what's happening there. And here we can have somebody who will be even faster and be able to support the organization on that shift, making sure that everything runs smoothly. And so it isn't really something like in some of the bigger organizations, like it might feel like, hey, it's a super rigid role, like they are driving the process here and you have to fill out all these mandatory fields. This is not how I envision product operations. Like I really
Mhm.
envision somebody who has a really strong leadership skills and is driving that process side of things, like helping others to get the right tools to do the job and collaborate with others.
All right. So that's kind of begging a question which has been laying around for many years, which is historically the question has been, when is a good time to, to get a product manager on my startup? If I'm a founder and I'm, maybe I have a CTO and I have maybe people in marketing and I have a couple of people in the development team, when is it a good time to get a product manager? And I think sometimes the question, and I've seen lots of people that are pre-product market fit using product board. When is it a good time to get product boards? If you are a startup, is it before the product manager gets to the team, or should you wait for the product manager to get on the team and then set up product board? And I think you probably have this case a million times when people do try out the product, and then when should they decide to actually go all in?
So the answer here is super easy. So like that's why we rather say that product board is for product makers rather than the product managers. Like that
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily create that artificial barrier of, hey, there's a first product management hire. And if you think about the main differentiator and the key ingredients in building successful products is customer centricity. And so, even
Right.
before you actually start building anything and start writing a code and designing, like you are trying to figure out what are the needs of your customers. And that's a time where you can actually start adopting product boards to first understand what customers needs and then actually start executing on it. So it's pretty much a stage agnostic. So I would like, if I start my own company, I will probably have a product board in my tool stack quite early on. So probably in the first, after I talk to a few customers. So
What would you use it for? So
uh,
let's say you're starting a company, you have maybe a co-founder or two. You're going to set up your product board account. What would you actually use it for?
So one thing is really capturing every single conversation that I have with the customer
Hmm.
about the needs they have. I think most likely I will not have idea what to build at this point. Like I will have some territory or some area that I'm passionate about. I will probably have a very ambiguous idea of what that might actually be and how the product might actually look like. So one thing is actually looking into what are the patterns in the feedback and pain points that our that those customers or at that point might be prospects actually have. And once you actually see that there is a pattern arising and it's something what is super critical, and people will be willing to pay a fortune if you actually solve it. So I feel like then it's a good time to actually prioritize that and figure out what might be that prototype that you are going to put in front of them and test with them.
All right, I think I got you there. And you, I mean, yourself, you have been navigating product management during uncertain times. How have you managed to steer your product strategies through this recent global crisis? And I guess those years of, I mean, the last 3 years were super challenging for us, at least at Productized, because we went through COVID, and for in-person events this was super hard. But if you're selling a product for product makers, how was that for you guys?
So it's a lot of conversations about product work quite meta. Like you can turn it into like what are the strategies to actually overcome it, and like what would we did ourselves. If I actually start with the first one, so what we did is that we focused on what we can influence, and I think that's a good recipe. So like you can influence COVID, right? Much like you can't influence whether people will be or are able to attend events in person. So I think you probably shouldn't stress it much about it and try to change that. It is something what is a constraint for you, and you will need to work around it. And I think here with COVID or now with the market shift that we see in the tech world is that the world will eventually come back. And I think it's important to spend that period to get ready for when that actually happens, when it bounces back. And
Hmm.
so that's one thing. Another thing is you will eventually focus on what actually works. So, like if you were, for example, doing a podcast, which could be distributed through the internet,
Yeah.
and it worked, so continue doing that. For us at Product Board, we adjusted our strategy. We actually followed those principles that I mentioned.
Hmm.
We went and started even more invest in the product, because the product that we put in front of the customer, that's something what we can influence. So we went back to the drawing board and tried to figure out how we can maybe re-architecture some parts of the product, so we can again get it ready for the next decade. Productboard turned 10 just recently, and even better meet the needs of our customers and where we are heading. And together with that, we also adjusted the ways how we work, how teams are organized here, uh, what is a talent that we actually need to have
Hmm.
on our team, and get ready for that moment when that particular market bounces back. But in our case, we also see that there was a one particular growing segment, so we actually went and built a strategy around that, because that's also coincidentally where we are heading and what type of customers we want to attract next. So for us, it was a very natural shift, but you can find those principles there. Focus on what you can influence. Get ready for the market bouncing back, and there was somebody much smarter than me saying that like you have to be ready to run when the market bounces back. Like you can't be turned around and trying to figure out like, okay, what do I do next? Like you have to be super ready, and this is a recipe for winning. So
So you're
decidedly
talking
so.
a little bit about talent and managing talent and what kind of talent you wanted to get to the team. So what's your approach to assembling a team, and what qualities do you look for in your team members?
Yeah, very often you will see in like certain criteria in the job description, right?
Right.
However, to me, there are a few particle elements that are maybe important for us here at Productboard, and for me personally. So we are a complex. We are building a quite a complex product. Product management and product building is typically at the center of the organization. There's a lot of complexity in general when it comes to communication and so on and so on. Now everybody is distributed, so that's another overhead there. So, in general, ability to navigate ambiguity is
Hmm.
quite important. Same when it comes to complexity. So like those are two elements, and being able to effectively deal with that is super important and heavily contributes to the success of that person. I think in product board, but it can be related to any other more of a complex product. Other thing is, I touch on it. We are a distributed company, and
Hmm.
so communication skills are quite important. And it isn't just like we have so many nationalities. It isn't just about the languages that you speak, but actually being efficient in the way how you communicate, whether it's asynchronous communication, presentation, whether it's how you actually collaborate asynchronously. What are all those habits that you have to actually do the job? Half of the product management time or product manager's time is about communication with others. Like you are leading people without authority. You have to
Right.
influence. You have to win them over, and so that is super important. And even more important, as people are remote, they are coming from different backgrounds, and and so this is particular, I think, important for product management and for distributed teams. Another one is we are a mission driven company. So that person needs to be mission driven. Like I very often ask like what they are actually want to try to achieve. Like what's their aspiration in their career? Like what do they actually want to leave after them when they leave this world? And so that's quite important for me. Same as like mentioned that career progression. So very often ask, "What's your next job?" So actually see where the person is heading, and they don't feel intimidated by saying like, "There's a next job after product board." But I feel like we no longer work in the companies for 50 years, like our parents, and so I think that's quite an important to also understand and recognize and grow that talent. And then I think for us specifically that there is element of that product excellence. So they actually act on it, and they just haven't read it somewhere, but they actually do it, or they actually try to do it even in imperfect environment, and then maybe the environment was tough to crack, but that aspiration and that drive to actually build products in an excellent way and build excellent products is important. And so like those are the elements of individuals. But then if you think about the teams, I also look at what are the skills that we are missing on the team. So somebody might be great at analytics, and somebody might be great in more like creative thinking and ideation. And same as we talk about football, so like same as you are putting together a team that you want them to win, like you have to think about the different skills they have, and make sure that you just don't have 11 players that can shoot the goal from every position, but you also, for example, need a goalkeeper that can save some of the some of the goals. So thinking about the complementary skills is important. And the last one is that I want to make sure that every new hire that we make here at Product Board is a bar raiser for us and for me personally as well. So like hiring somebody who's better than you, I think is a hard scale, and I'm not sure if I'm successful at it, but I strive for it. I really want to make sure that we are bringing somebody who will get everybody around better.
And because you are distributed, you get to recruit people from all over the place.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like we have some hubs, so like we actually see it. Product development specifically is a highly collaborative job, and
Yeah.
so there is a need to have people in either a time proximity, so in the same time zone, for example. That's why we have a lot of teams kind of like collocated in Europe, so they can collaborate together. Now we are building product teams also in San Francisco, but other thing is eventually even a physical proximity. Like even though like we are, you see many teams operating remotely, actually getting together and working together is something what we strongly believe that helps again to build better products. Like it just makes it incredibly faster. And so you can build excellent prizes. So many successes of a product that were built by completely remote teams.
Hmm.
It's just you sometimes play it on the harder level. And so we see that what works for us and what, for example, works for me is a hybrid model. So combining presence in the office and making sure that everything works, people understand it. Like you have to be very intentional if you
Hmm.
go remote and spend time remote. The things that
Hmm.
are suddenly happening without you actually doing anything in the office, whether it's somebody stopping by the coffee machine, they will not stop by a coffee machine at your home, right? So like you have to be much more intentional about it.
Hmm.
And most of my team is actually not here in Prague, so I have to balance it. But we love to get together to spend some time together, even outside of work, and just talk about the work because yeah, like it just isn't
How
about
how
shipping
easy
product.
it's to attract world great talent to Czech Republic or to Prague specifically nowadays, as it is becoming a more startup friendly and startup hub city in Central Europe.
It's getting better and better. Like you see more companies, even the largest enterprise companies such as Microsoft, actually having offices here and tapping into especially technical talent. That is fantastic here in Czech Republic, not only in Prague but also other cities.
Hmm.
But as we are trying to attract the top talent, eventually we have to go into different locations. For us in Europe, it's eventually London now becoming quite an important new hub. Or hire people remotely because they are
Hmm.
not close to the hubs. And then in San Francisco, that's also why we decided to also hire engineering, product, and design teams there, because right now there's also more talent on the market that can raise the bar for us, as I mentioned, bringing new methods, bringing new experiences that we don't
Hmm.
necessarily have here in Europe or Prague specifically. So that's why having two hubs is actually quite beneficial when it comes to attracting a top talent.
All right, so we're getting close to you know to the end of this conversation, but before we do that, let me ask you, from your personal experience being at the helm of products at Product Boards, must come with, and surely comes with, a set of challenges and rewards. Could you share some of this with us?
Yeah.
Both challenging times, challenging aspects, and some of the rewards that maybe are not so obvious for people
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. So I think like it's important to realize that as a product manager, your job is kind of like separated into two areas. One is your craft, so like how well do you do the job, and the domain, like where you actually do it. So like you might have somebody who is building, I don't know, e-commerce business, somebody who is building a physical products, and so on and so on. In product management, that kind of blends. The domain
Mhm.
and the craft nearly becomes one thing. And on one side, it's, I think, extremely inspiring to actually hear all those stories and eventually see how your product can like help others to get some sense of what to build next, and they actually build it, and it was successful. You're surrounded by the best product makers out there
Mhm.
globally, and so tapping into that wealth of knowledge, experience is incredibly rewarding. Many of us here at Product Board on the product team actually want to build their own company at some point, and so
Yeah.
this is a, I think, quite an elevator to to be on when it comes to that experience with building products. But as you mentioned, it also comes with challenges. So everybody thinks that you are the best product manager out there. You have a really high expectations, whether it's internally but also from your customers. Um,
Mhm.
I very often, because I'm a football fan, and I believe you didn't know when you started that conversation
No, I
about
didn't. I didn't. The
Euro
Euro Cup.
Cup,
Yeah.
and it's like sometimes I would say like it nearly feels like you got a bunch of players on the page, and like everybody has opinion on how that person should pass the ball or shoot and so on, and so
Yeah.
sometimes like it's
We call it so far coaches here.
yes, yes, yes. So I mean, like here, I wouldn't be probably that harsh. I mean, like you like those people, like the product managers on the customer side, are still great professionals, but obviously, like they don't have a full picture, right? Like they don't have a full picture. They understand what are their needs and how they would actually prioritize them, and like what what they would build next. But sometimes it's obviously challenging
But
to navigate some
I'm
of those
sure
conversations.
you get lots of great suggestions from your
Oh,
users,
believe
because
me,
your users are product makers themselves. So
yes,
they might not they don't only take the product super seriously, but they also, like you said, there some of them are some of the best product people out there. So they have actually a very good product sense. Hey, maybe you want to do this, or maybe you want to do that.
yes.
How do you deal with this impromptu suggestion that you get from your product users?
So first of all, that is actually a blessing. So like that's something like what you want to have, and then it's your job as a product manager to actually unpack the underlying needs and to do those exercises of five whys they actually believe that it should be in the product, and
Yeah,
what they are trying
exactly.
what they are trying to solve
To
with that.
achieve, yeah.
But that's your craft. Like that's something what you should do. But we actually look at like how many insights Productboard has compared to other companies that we have in our portfolio, and I think I have to say that we are quite lucky when it comes to the volume and the depth of the insights that we have. And so yeah, I feel like that is a blessing. Like it is a fantastic, like if you actually build that culture, and in our case, like it's nearly, yeah, it's nearly like a loop. It's like we preach the customer centricity, and we can see how it's coming back to product board, and how everybody is actually trying to help to build the product, and it nearly becomes some sort of a community to actually do product management better and be excellent at it.
almost outsourcing product to the user. I'm kidding, but yeah, I think you're super lucky in terms of the user base. So on a final note, maybe any book that you would like to recommend listeners of the podcast?
So one I actually read, and I didn't know about the book before, but somebody told me that I'm like, what did they actually talk about in that book, and it's called Extreme Ownership,
Oh,
and it's about how U.S. Navy SEALs lead and win, and I think that's something what I think helps tremendously if you actually have that approach for you as a product manager. It's super ambiguous world, as I mentioned before, and very often by default, if nobody's owning that, you are kind of owning that as a product
yeah, you're
manager.
owning by default.
Yes, exactly. So like that would be
uh,
the one. As I actually started thinking more and learning more about how to build the teams and how the team should operate. So, the five dysfunctions of a team was another book that I think opened my eyes quite a lot and helped me to make sense of things that I observe. I'm quite analytical person, observe a lot of things, so it helped me to nail some of the things that I actually saw. And product management is hard, so I would say the book that is called the hard things about the hard things by Ben Horowitz,
yeah,
like that would
ban.
probably be another one. Yeah, so those would probably be the three book recommendations, not necessarily super product management related, but I think relevant for anybody who is trying to build the teams and have a strong sense of ownership and do the things that are hard.
All right. And what has been the best advice you ever received?
Hmm, interesting question. I would have to think about it. I like the advice. Like I very often go back to like what, for example, my like people around me, like a family, like what, let's say some senior members of a family actually taught me. It isn't necessarily related to my yeah, professional coaches or my previous managers, but
Hmm.
one thing that I remember and I get back to is like make connections, and I think like make friends along the way. That's one, and the other one is like it's like we have a saying in Czech, but it's probably hard to translate. But I would say it's more about like stay humble, like don't be like, yeah, like don't think that somebody is better than you, but also don't think that you are worse or below somebody else. So like
How do you say that in Czech?
have that some sort of confidence. We would say nepovyšuj se nad nikoho a před nikým se neponižuj. So for
All
the Czech
right, I think that's a
audience,
very yeah. I mean, people would get to translate this if they want.
yeah,
So stay. So I think from what I got it is stay humble, but don't think you're more nor less,
yes,
right? Which
yes,
is
yes,
a very easy trap to get in, because sometimes you are high and they say, oh, I'm not humble enough, or you just don't get to have the humble card. But lots of times you also have the imposter syndrome and you think you're less than you
yes,
actually are. So that's
yes.
a super insightful remark. And thank you so much for your insights today. They have been incredibly enlightening. For those who want to learn more about Product Board or reach out for advice, where can they find you, Martin?
I would say when if you are trying to find me, so LinkedIn is a best destination. I'm probably the most active there when it comes to you learning more about product board. So productboard.com is the best place.
Yes, and the product board on LinkedIn is also super funny. I actually was going through your page the other day, and I found you guys published this picture of this whale from IKEA, like this toy whale
Mm-hmm.
with the tags, right? Not the paper tags, but the tags they use to say that this is flammable and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. And tags are actually bigger than the whale, the whale
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
And I think the message was something like, when you don't have a product vision, or when the
I think like
legal
I think it was
department,
something along the lines of like when legal takes over,
yeah,
or
legal takes
something.
over product vision.
Yeah.
So, Martin, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your vast knowledge. Don't forget that Martin will also be joining us at Productized Conference 2024. We'll have a discussion panel with Marty, and to our listeners, we hope you found today's discussion as inspiring as we did. Stay tuned for more insights from leaders like Martin at Productized Podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you for having me, and I will
Sure.
see you in Lisbon.